Hey Tim, I wanted to go over 5 specific tips that you can follow to run a faster half marathon. And of course, there are a lot of different ways to handle higher amounts of lactic acid buildup when we're running at faster paces. It's one thing to go out there and run easy and relaxed for 13.1 miles or 21.1 kilometers, but it's another thing to race and to be able to handle fast paces when you're fatigued. Okay, the number one tip I can share for athletes that are aiming for a faster half marathon is to give yourself more time to prepare and not rush all of your fitness in a short block of training. Okay, my recommendation, if you really want to do it right, is between 20 or 16 to 20 weeks. Some athletes will take up to 24 weeks and focus on a 6-month buildup to go out there and run a new personal best. Dr. Joe Vigil, one of the very best exercise physiologists in the world and a mentor of mine, mentioned to me that it does take about 28 days for your body to adapt any stress load you're placing on it. So if you're not rushing your fitness and you're giving yourself more time, your chances of success in the half marathon distance are going to skyrocket. Okay. Again, because you're not cramming all of your fitness and your time in a short block of training, and you're giving yourself ample time to adapt to what you're throwing at it. Okay, so definitely consider a 16 to 24 week buildup. I do have training plans on RunDreamAchieve.com that are in that time frame, so definitely consider that. Also, another thing a lot of athletes don't think about, this is the number 2 tip, is to run the tangents in the race. Run the least amount of distance as you possibly can when you're racing versus your competition. Okay, because a lot of athletes, the right-hand turns are coming up or the left-hand turns are coming up on the course, and they're the opposite side of the road. So you're running more distance to run across the road if you're making a left-hand turn and you're on the far right versus the athletes that are already on, say, the left-hand side of the road that just have to make that left-hand turn. It's a little strategy, but it plays a massive role in running faster over the half marathon distance. Again, you want to use leverage. You want to always be thinking about how can I do more with less. And obviously, so many of us have been taught to work hard and put more time in the office to get better results and to make more money and all those things. But there are people that are making more money that are doing much less. Okay, there are athletes out there that are really focusing on these specific strategies and are getting better results because, again, the athletes that they're competing against are doing more work than they really need to be doing. Okay, so if you're aiming to run a faster half marathon, I want you thinking about that as well. The number 3 tip to run a faster half marathon is to don't overanalyze and beat yourself up when it comes to preparing for running a fast half marathon. Expect the challenges. Expect that you're going to be tested both mentally as well as physiologically in training for what you're aiming to do. This is not an easy sport. There's nothing really necessarily easy about going out there and racing 13.1 miles or 21.1 kilometers. So expect the fact that you're going to be challenged. You're going to be tested. You're going to doubt yourself at times. This is a natural process in becoming a faster half marathoner. I certainly experienced it. I've dealt with setbacks in this sport, but because I was persistent and driven enough, I got to the point where I ran a 107.06 for the half marathon and I ran a 219.35 for the marathon distance. And I utilized these types of mental strategies as well as physical strategies, preparing for your races optimally, a longer buildup. Those are absolutely essential. Okay. My 4th tip to run a faster half marathon is to think about what are the very best runners doing and implement what they're doing. Okay. You don't have to be an elite runner, but you can study what the best runners do. And the best runners are running around 30% up to around 40% of their weekly volume running at their anaerobic threshold or faster. Okay, that's the reason why you see these Kenyans and Ethiopians. They're humans just like us. I've outrun them myself. I've been beat by them, but they hurt just as badly as you and I in a race. The only reason why they make it look so easy is because they're running a higher percentage of their weekly volume at a faster, more aggressive effort than you are. Okay, it's not just because they're genetically talented. Okay, I've met and associated myself around a lot of athletes that were genetically talented. The problem was they relied too heavily on their talent and they got lazy, and it was those athletes that were hungry, that were driven, that were motivated, that were not going to, they were not going to let up just because they had a few bad races or bad workouts. They were driven, they were hungry, they were tenacious about what they wanted, and they were willing to work for several years to get what they wanted. Okay, that type of athlete was myself. Okay, I didn't have a great deal of genetic capability, but I had work ethic. I was willing to put in the heavy mileage. I was willing to persist no matter what, no matter how long it took, until I got what I wanted to do. I achieved what I wanted. And really, I did in the sport. Outside of making the Olympic team, I broke the 2 hour and 20-minute marathon barrier. I earned an Olympic trials A standard time in that particular event. And to me, that was more or less making the Olympic team. Okay. I didn't quite have the genetic capability to make an Olympic team, but I got up to a very high standard because I was just committed and driven enough to get the results that I wanted. And that's what I know that you're already seeking. If you're already seeking out the right questions in terms of, what are the 5 tips to help me run a faster half marathon? Another tip, this is, the 5th tip, make sure you're running your race. Okay. Don't try to run someone else's race. Don't get too excited in the early stages of the half marathon. You don't want to go out the first half too aggressive that you blow up in the second half. It's always a lot of athletes do relatively well doing a positive split. Okay. They'll run a little bit too aggressive in the first half and be forced to run slower in the second half. I experienced it. I set my PR in the marathon by doing this. I went out the first half in 107.09. I came back with a 112.26. So I went out way too aggressive, but because I was fit enough, I was able to, because I slowed down the second half down to 112.26 and set a new personal best. So, but in order to do that, you have to be physically ready. You have to be mentally ready in order to do that. There's a lot of athletes that do much better running an even split. They practically run the first half as fast as they run the second half. A lot of athletes will do better with a negative split. They'll run the first half slower than they run the second half. Okay, so keep those things in mind too. I mean, to run a faster half marathon, pacing is absolutely vital. You do not want to go too anaerobic and redline too soon in that race. Okay, and to run a new personal best in the half marathon distance, it's already hard enough to race these particular distances, but to set a new personal record, you have to be thinking very strategically about how you set up your training. Just a few additional things, ideas I want you thinking about as you prepare. Do not get in the habit of running slow and easy long runs every single weekend. Okay, this is because I made that mistake the first few years of me running the half marathon distance and the marathon distance. I was very strong in terms of doing speed training, tempo runs, things like that. But I was very set in my ways of being very routine in terms of doing my long runs, just long, slow, easy, time on my feet. If you're trying to run a faster half marathon, you have to get outside of that way of doing things. Okay. My advice is to alternate. One weekend you're running long, slow, and easy. The next weekend you're running a long run where you're implementing some faster kilometers, some faster miles in that long run. Maybe it's like a 16-mile long run if you're training for the half marathon, and every 4th mile you're running, say, like 20 seconds faster than goal race pace every 4th mile in that long run. Okay. Or if you're kilometers, say you're doing a 30-kilometer run, maybe every 3 kilometers during that 30K long run, you're dropping 2 to 3 kilometers at 10 to 15 seconds faster than your goal race pace. Okay. And then also spending some time in that long run where you're running some miles or kilometers at your maybe 5K to 10K race pace. Okay. And it may just be a few minutes worth of effort at that particular intensity. But again, if you're doing that and then giving yourself ample time to recover from that, okay, you're going to set yourself up for success to run a new personal best over the half marathon distance. Because again, you're not running too much of your weekly volume easy and relaxed. And but you're also still focusing on how it is still important to run slow. You have to give yourself ample time to recover and adapt to what you're throwing at yourself. Okay, so make sure, this is a mistake that a lot of athletes make, and I want you to keep in mind too, is don't run too fast on your easy days. Those easy days are meant to be relaxed and easy for a reason. Okay, there's a physiological term called supercompensation that a lot of athletes don't realize. Don't know anything about. I encourage you to check it out. Um, but it's basically your body is drastically much weaker after you do after the hours after doing a hard speed session on the track or a tempo run on the roads. And then around 48 hours after you do that, your body bounces back and it is like 2 times stronger than it was prior to doing the workout. And I think that it's that adaptation period, that time where you're jogging, you're taking it easy, you're giving your body time to recover from the hard anaerobic uh, workout that you threw at yourself. You're giving your body time to not only rest, because we build up more inflammation, we build up, we have micro tears in our muscles after doing these hard workouts. So it's vital that you're paying attention to your nutrition, your mental well-being. Okay, not getting too bent out of shape if you don't have a great workout or a great race. Okay, even if you go out there and you have a bad workout, the fact that you got out there and you tested yourself physiologically as well as mentally, you got a benefit from that. You're going to get a huge physiological boost from doing that workout. Okay, so I hope these 5 tips, as well as a couple others that I've discussed here, is helpful for you in running a faster half marathon. Please feel free to reach out to me, leave me a comment below. Check out the resources on RunDreamAchieve.com. I have a running course that I created for athletes trying to break the 2-hour half marathon barrier. If that's something of interest to you, check that out. I also have I also have training plans on RunDreamAchieve.com for athletes trying to run faster over the half marathon distance that are available to you there as well. And I'm absolutely confident that those resources will help you set a new personal best and to meet and surpass what you're dreaming about as a marathon runner, a half marathon athlete, or a middle distance runner. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's helpful for you, and I will talk to you all in the next video.